Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another edition of Props of the Week. And as always, you got me, King of Crackdown, with Pro Bets, giving you our props of the week. And in this edition of Props of the Week, we'll be doing UFC Fight Night, Adesanya versus Pyfer. So, I got about 5 props here. Going to run through them pretty quickly. So, first one, Yanez KO decision at plus 120. It's really the money line value here at plus 120. Just trying to pick an angle on Yanez. I think Yanez is one of the better dogs on the card. And we look at the styles of fighters, he's going to you get him at a bargain value right here as far as pricing because he's underdog here. But stylistically, I think this is a good matchup for him. The guys that have really beaten Yanez aren't the style of fighter that Simone is. Simone is kind of like an overhand spammer, wrestler type of guy, whereas Yanez has been struggling with the strikers more so, and particularly like longer, lankier guys, particularly guys that have great calf kicks and can maximize that length. But again, the key word is calf kicks. Simone's not really a great calf. He's again an overhand spammer, takedown guy. And even in past recent years, Simone has not really had the greatest success taking people down. He had one fight recently in the past 5 years that was Smotherman. Well, Smotherman we got one win in the UFC, 1-3 in the UFC. It's not like he's truly UFC level. Yanez is. I think Yanez should be addressed to grappling. And then just be the sharper, busier striker. So plus 120, I think that's a good value on Yanez there. And then next one, we got Chiesa KO at plus 900. And I'm going to be honest, I stole this one. I saw it going around the internet a little bit. And I'm going to be honest about it. I'm not going to be around I created this. No, I did not create it. I saw it. I stole it. Plus 900. And Nico Price has got a lot of mileage on him. He's been knocked out a lot recently. And I'm not expecting Chiesa to go out there and look like he Mike Tyson or nothing to knock him out, or look like he's Ngannou, or like he's Ilya Topuria. I'm more suspecting maybe he could clip on the feet like he did Jorge Masvidal back in the past. Obviously, he lost that fight. Masvidal subbed. I think Darce choked him. But obviously, maybe he drops him on the feet and then finishes him off on the ground. Or realistically, I'm more so seeing him kind of grinding down Nico Price on the ground. Maybe Nico Price not really giving up to the submission and trying to battle the submission. And instead, Chiesa just goes for the ground and pound. Keeps trying to pitch for the submission. Then maybe he starts to catch him some shots. And Nico Price wearing all the damage that he has been wearing recently, on top of what he'll be wearing in this fight, maybe his brain just doesn't take well to those shots and starts to shut off a little bit, and then he just goes full curl up mode and Chiesa is able to get like a ground and pound TKO. Or maybe he just gets in a very dominant position and Nico Price is not really able to move, and he kind of just punched the glove enough times and the ref stops the fight. More so like that. That's probably the more likely outcome if it is a KO TKO. But either way, it's very likely. I mean, it's not very likely. It's likely enough, and it's a great value at plus 900. You can't really argue with that value. Plus 900 is a great value. Again, I just not no lock prop, but plus 900, you could do a lot with that. You play that a lot of ways. If you feel super confident, you can put a lot of money, or you can put a little bit of money and make a decent amount of money because it's plus 900, like 9 times your money. So, yeah, decent, great value, decent prop. So, Chiesa KO plus 900. Next one, we got Bahamondes sub at plus 400. This might seem a little bit interesting, but Bahamondes' last fight got a takedown. He got submission over Jalen. His last win got a submission over Jalen Turner. Musayev got 3 or 4 submission losses on his record, and he'll be the much shorter guy with more mileage. And Bahamondes will be much taller, much fresher, much more upside. I can see him having a lot of great strike success, and then maybe Musayev getting a little bit frustrated, or maybe walking into something, maybe a club and sub, or maybe Musayev gets frustrated again, start spamming some overhands, start ducking head a little bit, get caught in a head low, get his head snapped down in front headlock, and maybe get caught in a Darce, maybe get caught in an Anaconda, maybe caught in a bravado choke. Maybe something like that. But either way, I feel like with those long limbs, the big height disparity between them, and the fact that Musayev's going to be trying to cover that range so much, I can see him walking something and getting clubbed and sub, or maybe ducking too low and to getting put on the ground and submitted. And again, Bahamondes has been working on the sub game a lot. He already has 2 submission wins inside the UFC. So plus 400, it's a possible prop, good value, and has a good chance of hitting. So plus 400 on Bahamondes sub. That's another prop for this week. Next one, we got Grasso decision at plus 180. I've already said in 3 videos, I just feel like Macy Barber stylistically, she's been beating grapplers, and she's got slower, if anything, as far as on the feet. She's got more power, but she got slower, and Grasso still should be the quicker, sharper, better boxer here, and maybe even faster now, given not faster than she was before, but I'm saying she's going to be, the gap in her speed is going to be bigger because I feel like Barber has been getting slower. She's been getting stronger. She's probably been lifting weights, probably been hitting the heavy bag extra hard and whatnot. getting more power, but her speed has suffered from that. Like it's again, that's the benefit against grappling because she's stronger. She can muscle these women around, like she can defend the takedowns, and then she could beat on these grapplers that don't have no striking defense, don't have no footwork, and don't have no durability. Again, it's good for dealing with grapplers. When you go with a faster striker, like now you give enough speed. It's never like Barbara was like the most sharpest striker. So giving that speed can be a detriment here, and I think Grosso could beat her again. She beat her before by decision. I think she could beat her again by decision. I think people are taking away like the fights that Grosso lost, Barbara would lose too. She lost to Valentina Shevchenko, who just straight up dogged. I don't know what I'm talking like that, but straight up dogged Weili Zhang. And Grosso actually has a win over her. She stopped Valentina Shevchenko. They're 1-1-1. They're tied up. You might not feel it's 1-1-1, but it's historically and on paper it's 1-1-1. So, and that's what one of the top 4 women's MMA history, Valentina Shevchenko, that she's 1-1-1 with. So, is that really that bad to say? I don't like how the fight her trilogy went with her. They're 1-1-1. They still have a 4 fight. I mean, yeah, they still have a 4 fight. It's 1-1-1 on paper. Yeah, in that trilogy, Grosso only one would have finished. Shevchenko never finished Grosso. Grosso was the only one ever close to finishing that fight. She finished her in the first fight. She was close to finish her in the second fight. She got dominated most of that second fight. And she got dominated all the third fight, but she was never at any point close to being finished. So she got that trilogy. She can't have that feather. I was the only one who finished. You never knocked me out. You never did this. I choked you out. But I'm doing too much yapping on that one. And then lastly, we got Belgori by KO at plus 275. I just feel like, to the point, I feel like Mansour Abdulmalik is really a step down from Bukoyev, in my opinion. He hasn't really looked all that great or had that statement performance. He has been getting finishes, but I feel like he hasn't really fought that. Oh, he beat this guy, and he did this to this guy in such amazing form. Like, now you fought Brundage, and you struggled and got a draw. I mean, not a draw, but you got a decision with him. All right, I think it was a draw. It wasn't even a win. It was they went 1-1 headbutt, and it was clear to draw because they were 1-1 going to the third. So it was a draw. And yeah, but really, Brundage is the best guy he fought, and he didn't even have a dominant performance. It was a draw. So I just feel like he's a little too green right now. Maybe not the best matchup. Obviously, he can go further and develop. I think he does have a decent ceiling, but I just don't feel like it's the right fight for him right now. Especially with Belgori having a performance against a guy that was further along and a very much a similar fighter to Mansour Abdulmalik, in a better version, in my opinion, a more accomplished version, in my opinion. And I think usually Belgori can address the grappling, have a huge striking advantage, and potentially get the finish here as well. So usually Belgori by KO or decision, you getting plus money on that. Well, I got KO, not decision. So KO at plus 275. So I was trying to chase the max value. I think KO or decision was like minus 160, but it's straight up just KO. Just KO at plus 275. Just trying to get the most value I can get out of it. I'm not too worried about whether it's the most likely, try to cover every board. Just trying to get the most value I get. And I think KO at plus 275, I just like that one more. Again, see, for the similar matchup, and he did get a finish against a similar matchup. And it's not like we didn't see Mansour Abdulmalik, having troubles with Brundage on the feet. It's not like we didn't see him get rocked by Nick Klein in that fight. And by far, Belgori's on a whole different stratosphere striking-wise than those guys. So if you have an issue with striking there, prolonged striking changes with Belgori could definitely shut his lights out. So those are the 5 props. How do you feel about those props, Pro Smo?
Hey man, you could not have said anything better about that Adrian Yanez and Ricky Simon bet. Adrian Yanez is definitely the side. After you saw a power puncher like Vinicius Oliveira get through Ricky Simon, and I mean Ricky Simon might be coming in here confident, thinking, well, Yanez don't hold that power. He's all just volume. He's all volume, but he does have that counter right. So that's what Ricky's gonna have to look out for. He's got to be careful because Yanez is going to be seeking that, center of the octagon. And Simone, like you mentioned, with all those failed takedown attempts, he's going to be seeking the octagon wall and potentially trying to submit an anti-grappler like Yanez. And then, when you talk about Musayev, right? Musayev, who is a very explosive, in the first round against someone like Bahamondes. A good snap down, a poor attempt for a takedown, and you get the neck there is easy money for a guy like Bahamondes. Michael Chiesa, you say you stole that shit, plus 900, bro. Plus 900. Chiesa, Michael Chiesa, where everyone is taking Joe Pyfer at plus 900 over Adesanya. So I like this Michael Chiesa. This is a sleeper one. Michael Chiesa simply, in his southpaw, could get a good takedown. Spamming the takedowns, he could get Nico Price's hands down, and at that point, maybe a flash knockdown, and then a ground and pound finish, or just knock out Nico Price on the feet, like you mentioned, man. I mean, the guy's taking on so much damage there with Robbie Lawler, and just recently, right, 2 months ago, 60 days ago, knocked out.
Yeah.
So Michael Chiesa for
It was very technical. I think he lost to Robbie Lawler. Then he got a win in between over Alex Morono, and then he went on like another 3-5 losing streak. And just 60 days ago, he got knocked out by Nikolai Veretinnikov in like a minute. And that was like 60 days ago.
So I prefer that at plus 900 than Joe Pyfer to knock out Adesanya. And then, of course, you have Alex Grasso and Macy Barber. Like you said, man, she was headhunting when she fought Grasso the first time. Of course, that plays into Alexa Grasso's style. Now that Macy Barber has become this grappler-based, wrestle boxer, she has slowed down. So it's going to be a great fight. Alexa Grasso, no one to downplay after taking on Valentina Shevchenko 3 times. Imagine that. And then, of course, Yuzi Bruglugri. Yeah, this guy, kickboxer, right? Glory kickboxer. Very simple, man. Styles make fights. So Abdul Malik, all he can do is explode, blitz into setting up a takedown, and Yusri could just work against Octagon Wall like we've seen recently. He's also with Alex Pereira training the same thing. So if he could get it back to the center, jab away, calf slice, and hopefully, a good uppercut knockout, or maybe just win a decision, we could see something like that. What are the odds there that you have for Yusri Bulgari?
Belgori KO by plus 275 or plus 275.
Money.
But yeah, so those are the props of the week. Once again, Yanez by KO or decision at plus 120. Chiesa KO at plus 900. Bahamondes sub at plus 400. Grasso decision at plus 180. And Belgori KO at plus 275. So those have been the props of the week. Once again, from me, King of Crackdown and Pro Smoke Bets. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, and come back for more videos. Peace.